Strategies to promote your business using social media. Some of the most effective strategies are sometimes the simplest ones. As they say, the devil does lie in the details. So, here are a few basics you can do on social media to get your brand the attention it deserves. And the best news is that it won't cost you a penny. Create a publishing calendar. The first thing to do is create a message and the corresponding content. Once you have that, you need to figure out when and where you will be posting that content. That process can be streamlined by creating a message calendar. Without that, you will inevitably end up struggling to post content at the last minute. And more often than not, that is going to be low quality and lacking the intelligence it needs. The lack of time also compels you to repeat posts, and that's a massive bummer too. Use the right hashtags. There was a time when you had to create hashtags and do this intuitively. But now, there are many tools on the internet like Keyword Generator, which can give you keywords and hashtags that go perfectly well with your content. Use these tools efficiently to get your posts the required attention. Hashtags are extremely useful when it comes to promoting posts, whether it's for branded posts or special occasions like contests and giveaways. Adding them on platforms like Instagram adds a great deal of value and also reaches anyone who clicks on the same. You can also ask your audience to use the same hashtags when they are responding to your posts. This is a great way to spread word of mouth, especially when you are running a contest or a special offer. Share video content. There is no conversation about marketing a brand on social media without talking about video content. It is now quite clear that more and more people are consuming information through videos on their phones, rather than reading stuff. It is a great tool to send your message while conveying tone and personality. Videos are also seen as a way to hold the attention of your audience. Make use of cross-promotion effectively. You have a presence on social media platforms. What you need to do next is to promote those channels across the channels so that you can remind your followers to get your content everywhere. This is advantageous because you will be creating content that is specifically for a platform. Just because an individual follows you on Facebook doesn't mean they can skip Twitter or Instagram. Different content for different platforms. We mentioned earlier that the content on each platform must be unique. This is because each platform has its own algorithm, and the content on these platforms gets pushed to the subscriber based on these calculations. That's because the likes of Facebook and Instagram are constantly analyzing viewer consumption patterns and changing the algorithm to present content in the way the majority is consuming it. When you adapt your content to meet the requirements of the platform, your efforts will be appreciated. Viewers will recognize that you are in sync with their needs and responding to them. How to create engaging social content. We've talked about creating different types of content for different platforms, but what should you keep in mind while creating this content? There are a few easy ways to get the attention of your audience without having to invest too much time or effort. Let's look at some templates that will get your brand the engagement that you're looking for. Ask a question. The simplest form of a call to action is to ask a question. Even better if you can provoke some thought through it. What do you do when you are trying to be conversational? How are you today is a pretty good conversation starter in real life, but that's not going to get anyone's attention on social media unless it has a really interesting context. You can even suggest an answer to nudge them towards your brand if you are not a well-established name in the industry. What you need to do essentially is to get people thinking about your product or service. Humanizing your content. Billions of users are on any given social media platform every month. This has turned social media into a great place to share human interest stories. People are always looking for positive, uplifting stories. When it comes to sharing stories about your product or service, going with human interest hardly ever fails. It's a good story and one that everyone wants to hear. Tell them stories about your team members and what they consider to be a win. Usually, this is built around making a customer happy. Also, use the moment to tell them how your product or service bridges the gap between the other existing products and the problems customers are having with said products. Monitor audience behavior. Then it's time to keep an eye out for the responses. This is not just to understand the impact of your existing posts, but also to learn what works so that you can plan your future strategy. This, of course, is more applicable to brands that have been in the social media game for a while. All social media platforms give you analytics that tell you a lot of specific things about user behavior. And we know by now that quite easily, people engage more with visual posts. Anything with pictures and videos gets a second look compared to those text posts. On Facebook, for instance, you can check this by going into your page insights, clicking on posts, and then checking post types. Be a good listener. Monitoring discussions using your target keywords and tags of topics on online forums is an extremely important part of understanding what your existing and potential customers want from you. This is helpful not just with your content, but also with the stuff that your competition is pushing out. See how the customer base is responding to their posts and learn whatever you can from it. 10 social media do's and don'ts. They say no press is bad press, but that is so not true if you are a brand with a social media presence. But not to worry, there are a few easy ways to keep tabs on what to do and what not to do so that you can make the most of your presence and avoid the common trappings of this highly capricious medium. Yes, no shortcuts. There are no free lunches in life. The same goes for social media presentations. No matter how well your content is, you do not top the charts in a day. Nothing magical happens overnight. It takes many human hours to be a successful brand on social media. Yes, add value. At the end of the day, these platforms are just another way for you to reach your audience. So keep your content interesting, no matter the format you use. You can work well with teasers, but there must be a value add at the end of it. Yes, have clear goals. Achieving those results is no accident. It takes a clear set of goals that need to be planned right at the beginning. Whether it's your overall strategy or a strategy for one particular campaign, you need to be clear on what you are trying to achieve. Yes, stay consistent. Then there is the mistake that a lot of businesses make. Once you reach a certain point, there is a temptation to think you're above the game. No one is. The social media crowd is a classic example of the old adage, the customer is king. Yes, take advantage of promoted content options. If you don't have a big budget, or any for that matter, you will be relying on organic reach for your content. But if you can spare some moolah, there is the option of promoting your page and products. No, don't overdo the hashtags. Then there are things you should never do. Hashtags are great, but not if you overdo them. You might want to reach as many people as you can with these, but too many hashtags are no longer the case, and hence makes for a bad strategy. No, check your spelling and grammar. This is just awful. You might be human and mistakes are a possibility. That is why you should have a spell check enabled, and then get someone else to take a look at your copy too. No, don't spam them. Some businesses still think that a lot of information gives the audience the chance to sit with all of it. Nope. People don't want to be flooded with posts because it starts to feel like spam. No, don't only chase the numbers. Speaking of followers, a lot of tricks we've talked about in this book are about gaining an audience. But don't restrict yourself to the numbers. Social media is a fickle place, and customers change their minds every day. No, voice of authority, yes, but know-it-all, no. When you talk about your product or service or your industry, you want to sound like the voice of authority that you are. Be confident and knowledgeable, but don't be a show-off. That looks like arrogance and is condescending to your consumers. What metrics to track using social media? When it comes to reading the results of your efforts, social media has made it very easy for businesses to gauge their success. The numbers are there for everyone to see, and there are no lies here. Well, almost. You can't create goals if you don't have access to these metrics, because it lets you make sense of what kind of strategy is working for the people and what you need to do to make it better. Engagement. This is the first metric you need to understand, because this is more of an umbrella term. It contains the following: likes, comments, shares, or retweets are all individual metrics of engagement that add up. If you are checking Twitter, you can get a report which summarizes all the engagement for a specific tweet. Then there is the engagement rate. This is the number of engagements divided by the reach or impressions. When the numbers are high, you can rest assured that people find your tweet or post interesting. When it's organic, it means that you are able to create brand awareness without having to prompt action from the users. That's a good sign too. Impressions and reach. These are two other metrics that often confuse businesses. If you are working towards improving or even understanding brand perception and awareness, you need to look at these. Here's how you know the difference. Impressions tell you how many times a user saw it on their timeline. Reach, on the other hand, tells you the possible number of unique viewers your post could have, well, reached. Typically, this is calculated by adding your number of followers and the follower count of the accounts that shared your post. Referrals and conversations. Typically, e-commerce websites start by keeping track of these two metrics because they are directly linked to marketing and sales. This is the goal of every business. But you will need to devise a publishing strategy with tracks if you want to understand the traffic analytics of your website. Referrals tell you about the users who actually land on your website. You can see where these users came from, and typically, you can see your social media traffic under a separate tab, no matter the tool you are using to get the information. Conversion is about the purchases made on your site. A viewer has been converted into a paying customer. A social conversion is one that happened because of the content posted on a social media platform, and it all happened in one go. You should also learn about click-through rate, or CTR, when it comes to both posts and ads. This is a number which tells you how many times a user has clicked on the content of your posts. It gives you the data on impressions because they saw the ad or post too. When the CTR numbers are high, it means you ran a good ad and got results. This can be measured using email links, call to action buttons, and specific social media ads too. Conclusion. There's a lot to capture and understand when it comes to social media, so that you can use it to your benefit. Each company must create a strategy that is specific to its purpose. Your goals, message, and publishing calendars are not templates that can be downloaded. You can, however, get some templates to build these calendars and customize them to meet your brand and its audience's needs. So if you are a business that wants to get the word out and as many customers in as possible, this is the perfect tool for you to decode. What's more, you can grow a business just with your online presence at a fraction of the cost of what you would end up spending if you focused only on traditional techniques of marketing. You will hardly ever see anyone with internet access not have a Facebook account. No, we're not talking about your uber-cool new age buddy who is beyond the drama of their peers. Facebook has gotten so big that it is virtually a nation and one that is extremely well connected. Platforms like Twitter and Instagram are also a part of this growth brigade, and everyone's lives have been overtaken by this magic. We'd call it a whirlwind, but it's more like a tsunami. The good kind, though. Well, for the most part. This is a great time for businesses to be thinking about maximizing their potential. For one, you don't need to spend as much and would still be justified in expecting tangible results from this strand of marketing. There is plenty of data that is being handed to you on a platter by users themselves. All you need to do is mine it and break it down so that you can reach them at a personal and real level. They keep saying this is the era of information and that data is today's oil. If you fail to miss that cue and make your mark, it is no one else's fault but yours and yours alone.